I saw this tweet a while back. It's from a construction company called EllisDon, and it went viral, probably the only time that's ever happened to this construction company. They were bragging about finishing a big factory construction in London, Ontario. You can see a picture of that factory in the tweet, and here's what they wrote. They said, the world's largest cricket production facility is officially complete. Aspire Food Group's new plant in London, Ontario, is ready to produce 9,000 metric tons of crickets annually for human and pet consumption. Learn more here. And indeed, you can click that link to learn more. But hold up, crickets for human consumption? That's what they say. Can that really be true? Well, if you click the link, it appears to me that takes you to a story in the Canadian Manufacturing Magazine. You can see it for yourself. Aspire Food Group completes production of manufacturing facility. Let me read a few lines without gagging. Aspire's new plant will reportedly produce 9,000 metric tons of crickets every year for human and pet consumption. On May 26th, Aspire Food Group announced that it has completed construction of its alternative protein manufacturing facility. London, Ontario is now home to the world's largest cricket production facility. Aspire's new plant will reportedly produce 9,000 metric tons of crickets every year for human and pet consumption. That's about 2 billion insects to be distributed annually across Canada and throughout the United States. Aspire also reports that it already has orders for the next 2 years. Crickets are currently being explored as a protein-rich superfood. They contain fiber, and are already found in grocery stores and restaurants and have a smaller environmental footprint than traditional protein sources. I am so grossed out. I was thinking about this story today and I was literally gagging. They couldn't be clearer. It's for humans. They said so in the tweet. They said so in the article. I'm sorry, I gagged a bit there. And they link to the company that owns the factory, Aspire Food Group. And you can click on it, and this is their website. And if you click About Us, they say we are global industry leaders in advanced insect agriculture. At the bottom of the page is a timeline of the company, and it starts in 2012, when some students from McGill entered into a left-wing globalist project hosted that year by Bill Clinton called the Hult Prize, H-U-L-T Prize. I'd never heard of the Hult Prize before. I went to the website. It's a left-wing incubator, really. Here they describe themselves as, what is the Hult Prize? The Hult Prize challenges young people around the world to solve the planet's most pressing issues through social entrepreneurship. What does that mean? Well, I don't know. Here's the head of national directors in the Hult Prize Foundation. He's a World Economic Forum global shaper. I think that's what the Hult Prize is. It's sort of globalism, left-wingism, but lots of billionaires behind it. A lot of it seems to be about getting people to eat really weird foods. This year, for example, a team called Chilk, which they say is making the best tasting, most functional, and coolest alternative dairy in the world. Or Propel Foods, which they say is repurposing invasive species and plants to create modern foods for the modern diet. Are you getting a theme here? Well, here's how the London Crickets Factory, how their own CEO tells his Cinderella story. It's a 2-minute video by the CEO of that bug factory in London, explaining that absolutely this is to feed crickets to people. Take a look.
In 2013, I was pursuing a joint degree in medicine as well as an MBA at McGill University. 2 months into the program, I got an email that I didn't realize was going to change my life. This was actually an email that brought my attention to the Hult Prize, the world's largest business prize competition. In 2013, the problem was food insecurity. We started looking at this problem and looking at it from all dimensions until we came across an incredible insight. And that is that over 2 billion people already consume insects as part of a diet. So we thought to ourselves, what if we can come up with a way to farm insects on a year-round basis in a cost-effective way?
The judges have selected from McGill University, Aspire.
We ultimately proceeded to defeat 20,000 teams from around the world and actually win the 2013 Hult Prize. And that gave rise to our company, Aspire. Insects compared to any other form of livestock, use less land, less water, less energy, and produce a negligible amount of greenhouse gas emissions. They provide incredible nutrition for those who experience food security, and on the other hand, they happen to be tremendously sustainable for our planet. We devoted our resources to launching our beta facility, the most advanced, innovative insect farming technology in the world. You can literally copy and paste this farm anywhere in the world and ensure you're going to get the same yield and the same high quality product every single day. It is our belief that insect protein, given that it's already widely consumed around the world, it is food, and it will be part of our food culture in the US, regardless of whether or not we are part of making that history a reality.
Oh, of course, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it, but of course, I'm sure you assumed that in addition to getting that Clinton prize money, Justin Trudeau chipped in $8.5 million of your tax dollars for insect agriculture, and I think a couple more grants too. I think it's over $10 million now. So regular farmers raising beef on a ranch, farmers growing real crops, they're facing huge new taxes from Trudeau, not just carbon taxes, but now Trudeau's weird war on farms, including his war on fertilizer. We saw this in the Netherlands too, the bizarre and anti-human war on farming. Who goes to war against farmers? But that's the weird thing. Why is everyone pushing the end of beef, the end of real food? Why are they pushing synthetic fake food, fake meat, meat made in a lab, meat made from bugs? Why do you suddenly see these everywhere? I mean, for example, here's the World Economic Forum pushing the idea a few years back. Watch this whole thing. That's nuts. Algae? Bugs growing dead chicken meat in labs? Who is behind this madness? Here's another infomercial by the World Economic Forum. It's too long for me to show you the whole thing, but here's the first half of it. You get the feeling.
It's not normal that you try and create a high technology company that's farming millions of insects right in the heart of London. But insects are just nature's perfect upcycling machines that create organic, natural protein that we can feed to animals, eventually maybe humans. What people don't realize is there's a huge disconnect between what we eat and how we feed what we eat. All farm fish that we create are dependent upon wild-caught fish to feed them. We feed fish to chickens. All animals need to eat fats and proteins to grow, just like we do. Now, these proteins come from two sources traditionally, that's fish meal and soya protein. Now, soya protein is one of the biggest causes of deforestation in the rainforest. And fish meal means that we are dredging our oceans empty of small pelagic fish, which are the base of the global food web. There's only so much rainforest we can cut down, there's only so much oceans that we can actually deplete until we get to a really dangerous pinch point. We have the dual forces of a growing population with an increase in demand for protein. There's a moment in your life where you just think enough is enough and you have to do something about it.
So they're saying this is about overpopulation and climate change. They're trying to make regular food look gross and trying to make gross bugs and synthetic food look good. And that just happens to be a major mission of one of the world's richest men, Bill Gates. Gates has one of the highest carbon footprints in history of all time. I mean, he jets around, but he wants the rest of us to live smaller. In fact, he doesn't want many of the rest of us to live at all. Here he is at a TED Talk a few years back saying we need to cull the world's population. At least that's what I take from it.
It's an average about 5 tons for everyone on the planet. And somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to 0. It's been constantly going up. It's only various economic changes that have even flattened it at all. So we have to go from rapidly rising to falling and falling all the way to 0. This equation has 4 factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to 0. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to 0. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to 0. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3.
Gates is bizarre on this stuff. He's buying up America's farmland, but he's not making beef on it or ranching. He's promoting the grossest things, including drinking sewage water that's recycled. What a super gross man. I mean, it's madness that we let such a misanthrope, someone who truly is against mankind. He's in charge of our vaccines. That's crazy. He's creepy and diabolical. If you don't take it from me, take it from his wife. Listen to why she divorced him.
You know, it was also widely reported that Bill had a friendship or business or some kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and that you were not, that was very upsetting to you. Did that play a role in the divorce at all in this process?
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, you know, my heart breaks for these young women because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in? I didn't realize
was awful.
That. Yeah. And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
But I made it very clear how I felt about him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to the World Economic Forum, one of Gates's favorite hangouts. Here's another video they did about how we should eat bugs. They want you to eat bugs. They say insects deserve to be part of your diet. I didn't know insects deserve that. So it's billionaires like Bill Gates, plus creepy Bond villain types like Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets.
No wonder Trudeau gave a huge government grant to that London insect farm. Trudeau is a World Economic Forum super spreader. And Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister who cut the check, is literally on the board of the World Economic Forum. Maybe at a World Economic Forum meeting, Chrystia Freeland or Justin Trudeau might have bumped into David Rosenberg, he's one of the world's leading eat the bugs entrepreneurs. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, he's on the board of directors of Aspire, according to this document I found today from Industry Canada. You can see his name there. And he just happens to be a key World Economic Forum leader. They love him. They say David is a member of the World Economic Forum, where he is honored as a young global leader and was a technology pioneer. All right, so far all we have is a weird story about an insect farm getting millions of dollars from Trudeau. At the same time, Trudeau declares war on real farms. We see that Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum are obsessed with getting people to eat gross things like bugs and algae and synthetic food. And the insect farm in London, Ontario, has a board member who is a World Economic Forum hero. And in fact, the whole insect farm company, Aspire Food Group, got its start with a globalist grant handed out by Bill Clinton. So those are the facts as told by every document I've shown you. Many from the company's own website, many from the World Economic Forum's own website. I showed you the Industry Canada documents. No speculation, no guesses, just the facts. And this story's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm interested in it. Bugs. We did a Rebel News story about it a few weeks back, and others in the media wrote about it too. And it's so interesting and troubling. And you paid for it all. I mean, they really do want you to eat the bugs. Even if you don't want to, they'll take your money to give to the bug farmer. Okay, but look at this. I told you that my monologue today was the story about the worst journalist in Canada. And I will keep my promise. Look at this. It's from the CBC. How a London, Ontario cricket plant found itself at the heart of an international conspiracy theory. 7 days after the factory was built, it was falsely implicated in a global conspiracy. And this story is written by this guy, Colin Butler, who they say is a veteran journalist with 20 years experience in print, radio, and television in 7 Canadian cities. Oh, I bet he is. Let me take you through his story, but just in case you're counting, we haven't even got past the headlines, and he's already said conspiracy theory twice and the word false once. Let's go through it. Let me read a few paragraphs in a row where I'm sure Colin will present his evidence to support his claim that this is fake news and a conspiracy theory. Ready? A London, Ontario cricket factory that produces insects used as pet food has found itself at the heart of a sweeping international conspiracy theory whose purveyors claim a cabal of shadowy elites are trying to force the population to eat insects as part of a sinister totalitarian plot. The conspiracy theory has been circulating for months, amplified and published by hawkers of online misinformation in Canada and elsewhere in English and Chinese, often with the falsehood growing, more sweeping or outrageous with each iteration. Those spreading the myth aren't just online bloggers and anonymous social media accounts. The falsehoods are also spread and tweaked by a number of political operators to suit their agenda, including the Alberta separatist movement and politicians like a sitting MP and a Conservative Party of Canada leadership hopeful. CBC News charted the history of how this conspiracy theory grew from a single tweet by an Ontario construction company to being used as rhetoric in the Conservative Party of Canada leadership campaign. Okay, so he said it's a pet food factory. But that's not what EllisDon, the company that built the factory, said, was it? They said it was for humans and pets. That's what won them the original $1 million grant from Bill Clinton. That's what their whole mission is. That's literally the case made by the president of the bug farm in his own video. Why tell such a weird lie in the very first sentence? Why say it's just for pets? I counted The CBC and Colin use the word conspiracy theory literally 20 times in the story. They say fake or false literally 15 times. I counted. We're well into the story, and all he's done is make insults and assertions. He hasn't yet shown you a single factual error. In fact, he hasn't referred to a single fact himself, has he? Now, how many facts did I show you? Tweets, documents, photos, videos, Industry Canada records, 10, 15, 20? All of them from the primary sources themselves. But you can sort of tell the purpose of this article already, can't you? I mean, the words Conservative Party appear 4 times in the story, even though it was the Liberal Party that gave the bug farmer his grants and the Liberal Party that's actually declaring war against nitrogen fertilizers in regular farms. It's weird. It's almost as if the CBC aren't real journalists, but are government journalists hired to smear Trudeau's enemies and cover up for Trudeau's scandals and to hide the bug factory's true nature for some reason. Let me keep reading. The information was picked up a week later by Awakening Canada, a Facebook group that posts misinformation about the pandemic and conspiracy theories about the World Economic Forum. The June 17 post was published shortly after midnight asking, "Are you guys ready to eat some crickets? Welcome to Communist Canada." It got 10 shares among the page's 4,600 followers. 8 hours later, the false information, what false information? Was repeated by Mike McMullen, a London, Ontario political candidate who ran for the People's Party of Canada in the last federal election and a candidate for city councillor in this October's municipal elections. He posts the same EllisDon tweet on his Facebook page with the caption, "Klaus Schwab and the WEFers must be pleased." The post gets 29 shares amongst his 1,900 followers. "There's a growing number of people who think our country is messed up and our politicians are puppets," McMullen told CBC News when asked Thursday about the post. "A lot of people are concerned that they're going to get them to eat bugs." Okay, so they're smearing all of Trudeau's enemies. The People's Party. A little bit later on, they smear Leslyn Lewis, Cheryl Gallant, the MP, the Alberta Prosperity Project, any poor schlub with a Facebook page that the CBC hates. But, I mean, we're pretty deep in this story yet. Have you found the conspiracy theory yet, the fake news part yet? Are you guys ready to eat some crickets? Welcome to Communist Canada. That was what they said was a conspiracy theory, but that's not really a theory. It's a sarcastic reaction to a bug factory advertised as being for human consumption. So what's the conspiracy theory? What's the false fact? Are you ready to eat bugs? It's a question. The factory owner hopes the answer is yes. What's the fake part again? What's the conspiracy part again? Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum people must be pleased. Well, you know they are, because David Rosenberg, one of the Bug Factory's board of directors, he's a member of the World Economic Forum. I'm sure he's pleased that his factory is built. Again, what's the conspiracy theory part? Again, what's the false part? I'll read some more. On June 18th, a similar post appears on Black Sheep Truth Media, a Facebook group that features numerous conspiracy theories with the caption, "The planned food shortages now offers a solution. Not to worry now, there will be plenty to eat, folks." The information has been reaching more people with at least 292 shares and 164 comments among the page's 30,000 followers. It is also flagged as false information by Facebook after being singled out by independent fact checkers. First of all, there is no such thing as an independent fact checker. They're all political operatives whose job is to censor dissident media that's off the official narrative, but call themselves fact checkers so they appear less partisan. But again, what's the factually false part? Planned food shortages. Okay, that's a theory, but is it not the plan in the Netherlands, for example, to shut down farms in the name of global warming? That is the plan. That's why the farmers are reacting. Is it not Trudeau's plan to do something similar? Here's a story in Bloomberg, pretty mainstream media, in fact, Democrat media. Trudeau spars with farmers on climate plan, risking grain output. Canada wants to cut fertilizer emissions, but farmers say it could result in less food. So I suppose it's a matter of opinion whether or not less food is an intended consequence or an unintended consequence, but it's pretty clearly going to be a consequence if you farm less. Reducing farming will reduce the amount of food. That's what happened in Sri Lanka. That's why they had a bit of a civil war there. So again, what's the conspiracy theory that the CBC thinks they've caught? Simply clucking in disbelief that anyone would be worried about eating bugs, that's not journalism, it's not fact-checking, it's not exposing a conspiracy theory. And the fact that the very first sentence in this article, the CBC reporter lied. He claimed that this factory was only for pet food, when the factory's builder and owner said it was for people food. It shows you can't trust the CBC. The fact-checker here is actually the liar here. This weird CBC story is so long, I'm not going to read it all. It's really just Colin Butler complaining that people are saying things he doesn't like and he can't censor. I'll read some more. On July 3rd, The Falsehood is published in the Calgary-based Western Standard in a column titled, "If Canadians Want to Eat Crickets, We Wouldn't Be Forced to Subsidize a Cricket Farm." The column has been shared at least 450 times to 130,000 followers. Okay, again, what's the falsehood? It's an opinion. And I think it's actually reasonable, don't you think? You don't need subsidies to be a farmer for things people actually want to buy. It's not even a factual statement that's true or false. It's an opinion. How is that a conspiracy theory? What a kook this guy Colin Butler is. What a liar. What a shill for his boss, Justin Trudeau. And Chrystia Freeland, the World Economic Forum stars. Here are some more so-called fact checks on so-called conspiracy theories. This is incredible. She published the false information again in a link to the Western Standard column on August 7th with the caption, "It's interesting that Trudeau invested millions in cricket farming to fight a food shortage long before Putin invaded Ukraine." They're talking about Cheryl Gallant. Gallant did not respond Thursday or Friday to a request for comment from CBC News. On July 9th, federal Conservative leadership hopeful Leslie Lewis wrote a blog post with the heading, "Is animal meat being phased out?" that hints the cricket plant is part of a larger plan by the federal government to phase out meat. The post has been shared thousands of times on social media, including among groups that share fake news and conspiracy theories, such as the Druthers Community Group. Lewis did not respond Thursday or Friday to a request for comment from CBC News. Well, I'm glad Cheryl Gallant and Leslie Lewis know better than to talk to the wicked liars at the CBC state broadcaster. But again, those aren't even factual statements. They're musings, they're reflections. Is animal meat being phased out? I mean, that idea has been proposed many times by left-wing groups. I think it's a fair question. I think it's a good question. How is asking a question a conspiracy theory? How is it a false fact? This Colin Butler is stupid. Or maybe he's not stupid at all. He's just malicious, and he knows his job is to smear any enemy of Trudeau in the World Economic Forum, not to report. Whether or not it's interesting that this bug factory was in the works before Ukrainian wheat exports were put in jeopardy, I suppose that's a matter of opinion. I actually don't see a connection myself. Maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. But how is saying, that's interesting, how is that a false fact? Other than they want to smear a Conservative MP. I'll read some more. CBC News shared the timeline of the conspiracy theory's growth with Alison Meek, an associate professor of history at King's College and Western University in London, Ontario, who studies conspiracy theories. She said the false information taps into a growing anti-government sentiment playing on the fear and isolation many felt during the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when authorities were imposing sweeping lockdowns and health restrictions that upended many people's daily routines. Okay, so we've got an expert to tell us what to think and what not to think. Is there any group more discredited these past 2 years than experts? But is this professor of history knowledgeable about this bug farm? Has she even Googled it? Has she watched its videos, like the one from its CEO? Did she look up its board of directors like I did? What is she an expert in, other than mocking the little people as being stupid? Isn't she actually the stupid one here? I'll read some more. The internet has been a real boon to conspiracy theories, she said. It's free. You reach like-minded individuals, and it can be twisted to fit whatever the agenda is, whether it's the Great Reset or World Economic Forum or state politics. She said while fact-checking conspiracy theories can be exhausting, it must be done to keep those who propagate the lie from dominating the conversation with false information. Do you think that nutty professor knows that David Rosenberg, a key part of the bug factory's corporate structure, he's a director of the board? Do you think she knows that David Rosenberg is in fact a member of the World Economic Forum? Is that the lie she's talking about? Do you think Colin Butler does? You think they spent a minute actually looking into the facts here? I don't see any evidence of it. They're just calling names. Now, I'm at the bottom of their article now, and I'm still waiting for a false fact. The only lies here were from the CBC and their dial-a-quote fake experts. And the only conspiracy theory here is the government journalists trying to cover up what the bug factory itself publicly brags about and what the World Economic Forum publicly lobbies for. What a disgrace they are. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.